Moving on to our panel of guests, Mr. Denis, since this is your first intervention with us, I would love to know what is your interpretation for this military operation in Ukraine by Russians, and was this operation the only way for Russia to defend its national security as it claimed?
Well, thank you very much for inviting me on to this discussion, this panel discussion. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss some of these developments with you. I think the first and most important thing is to put this in the proper context, the historical perspective. The immediate reports from Ukraine, this is war reporting, it's war news. It is almost impossible to tell what's actually happening on the ground. However, if you take a step back and look at the context and look at the cui bono, who is to benefit, certain things need to be said. The Russians had been warning for a decade or more that if NATO kept expanding eastward up to the very borders of Russia, this presented an existential threat to the existence of the Russian nation. Russia warned repeatedly, beginning in the 2007 speech at the Munich conference by President Putin, that a different order was possible and necessary internationally, that NATO could not keep expanding forward. Russia had received promises repeatedly from the United States, and through the words of James Baker III, this is now well documented, that NATO would not move 1 inch to the east. NATO moved not 1 inch, but 1,000 kilometers to the east, to the point where NATO was about to expand into Ukraine with the announcement by both NATO and Ukraine that that was their intention, and Russia warned repeatedly that the only choice they would have would be to take measures to prevent this. Now, one can object to what is going on, and certainly many of the scenes are horrible, whoever is responsible. But the strategic fact of the matter is that this crisis has been caused by the NATO expansion eastward, the destruction of the economies of the entire transatlantic sector by the International Monetary Fund, by Wall Street banks, by the City of London banks, which is driving the force towards war.